working on my intuition has been key. And that has helped me lean more into my feminine and not so much use just my brain, because I realized even when things I knew and I knew immediately, like, say no to this client, whatever, I would ignore my intuition and I would just say, oh, but it's a lot of money. And so I've learned the hard way a lot with those kinds of situations.
All right. Hello and welcome back to the Joyous Path to Millions podcast. Me, your host, Emily June Wilcox, and I am joined today by Angela Christian. And Angela and I connected through the RRT community. I actually reached out to her and was like, hey, do you want to chat? It seems like you're into the same kind of things I'm into, like coaching, money, finance. I saw that you were like ex Silicon Valley and that you were doing soul work, but also all kinds of energy work. And I just felt that there would be alignment. And sure enough, we were willing to meet and there was. And I feel like we have a nice little online friendship forming. So Angela, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you reached out. I always love connecting with other women in the space who we're all doing like our own thing. And it's great to connect over modalities and then where we're both targeting like women, helping women in different ways. So I just love that. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super glad that you're here. And I want to dive into some of the CFO and traditional finance work, and then also your perspective on that through the lens of energetics and masculine and feminine energy. I think there's a lot there because I've had my own experiences in more corporate America. And then even I find that like a lot of people that are drawn to the financial industry in one way, shape, or form are just like very much in their masculine energy. And there's like this kind of feeling that like it's math, it's facts. There's only one way to interpret this. And I just would love to hear your take on that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I was always drawn to like accounting and finance, entrepreneurship. I remember clearly as a kid, I would play hotel and I owned this hotel and I would make people like pay me money and I would arrange all the rooms and I just loved it. It like lit me up. And then in high school, we had this one business class where we basically learned how to balance our bank accounts and write checks. And I like begged the teacher, please, can you do another class? So he did a second level just for me, basically. And then I went on to business. I got my undergraduate in business administration. I went on to get my MBA. And I just thought, okay, this is the path for me, like to be in accounting and finance. And I found myself in the Silicon Valley startup world, helping a lot of entrepreneurs, very fast paced, but I liked it because it was like, I have a little bit of ADHD. So it was nice working with all these different companies. And so I did that in the corporate space for a very long time, probably like 15 years. And then I just knew and I was able to work from home, which was great because I had young kids. At first, I wasn't able to, but I figured out a way, as we talked about when you were on my podcast. I figured out a way just because I didn't want to be away from my babies. And then I decided finally to just launch my own CFO firm. I actually attempted that once before and I just didn't have the confidence behind myself. And I ended up going back to corporate for 6 months or something and balancing corporate with my private clients. And then something clicked and I just finally was like, I'm done. I'm doing this on my own. That was over a year ago. And immediately when I launched, it was like, I had no problem finding clients. Like I'm still so at my bandwidth with my CFO clients right now. So I feel very grateful. But I don't think that would have happened without really getting my energetics in place, my confidence, like all of that behind the scenes. So I think I did also like the business, finance, accounting space, as you mentioned, because it is very masculine. And I felt very out of control. I had some trauma that I was dealing with and just felt like, okay, this is, like you said, it's facts, it's numbers, it's like solving problems. I was also a single mom for many years. I still am a single mom, which puts you in your masculine, right? Because you're like having to provide and do all of the things. And really working on my intuition has been key. And that has helped me lean more into my feminine and not so much use just my brain, because I realized even when things I knew immediately, like, say no to this client, whatever, I would ignore my intuition and I would just say, oh, but it's a lot of money. And so I've learned the hard way a lot of with those kinds of situations.
Yeah, totally. Were you a good student in school?
Oh, yeah. I arranged with my parents. I said, for every A, will you guys pay me like $10? So they said yes. And so I would get like straight A's almost every report card.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. There's like this pattern of high achieving women where it's like this imbalanced masculine feminine energy. And a lot of the masculine, I think you hit the nail on the head, comes from this desire for control. I don't trust the world, or I don't trust what's going to happen if I'm not like death gripping this.
Yep.
And I've also noticed that in many situations, it takes like a big moment, either like a health crisis or a moment of burnout or something big to happen to wake you up to a different way of being. Is that true for you?
Oh, for sure. In 2015, that was a huge awakening for me because my house got contaminated with black mold in the walls severely. It was this huge thing. It turned out the owners knew about it, lied. They opened up a wall, left it open. Me and my kids were so sick. Like we could barely move and breathe. We were in the ER all the time. My daughter at that time started seeing like entities in the house. And that was my first kind of, whoa, what is happening? And so that kind of pushed me, even though I'd always been interested in the unseen world, that was like my push. And I was very sick. I ended up having to move a few times. Mold followed me. I ended up having to move home. It was just crazy, but I know like I would never take it back. And so at that time, that was really my push. I started studying mysticism, shamanism. I enrolled myself and my oldest daughter in this really beautiful school in Marin County called the Foundation of Spiritual Development. And in there, we learned how to read energy, how to work with our energy. And my daughter's way more gifted than I am even. And she's decided to shut that off for now because she's a teenager. So
yeah,
she's too cool for it. So that was like pushed me in that direction. And then from that point on, I still was studying always, but it wasn't until the pandemic when I found myself in a really toxic marriage and things were just out of control in my life, I felt. And I had been going through a custody battle. I developed this pain in my arms that was so bad in the mornings I couldn't open my hands. And they said I would need surgery, all of this. And my shaman that I was working with at the time, she was so kind about it, but she was like, I think it's your anger. I think you really need to process your anger. I did. I never had to have surgery. It's perfectly fine. I've never had that happen again. And so that made me wake up. What am I doing? I know a lot of people found themselves in a dark space during 2020. Like just a lot of things came up. I think it was a huge growing time for me. And so in a very short span of time, I decided to file for divorce. I got laid off from my job. I had to move out of my house. And then I got COVID. And so I had to like just lay in bed and process all of this, which it was great. I'm actually glad I did because it gave me that space and time to just rest and process. And so at that point, I was like, okay, enough of this. And that's when I started getting interested in the online space. And I took my very first course with Amy Porterfield. I don't know if you know her, but yeah, Digital Course Academy. And so I became so interested in that. That's like in 2001 or two, I launched my podcast and I just became so fascinated with that. That just like really became my light. And it led me even further down this road of education, spiritual expansion, energetics to where I'm at now. So
yeah, that's amazing. And I love that you're like, I'm happy it happened. Like it all worked out. And I feel like we have to remind ourselves of that because obviously when we're going through it, it's hard to have that perspective. But in hindsight, even the things that felt so shitty and everything being torn apart, collapsing, were for your highest good and are for our highest good.
Definitely.
Yeah. So my mind is, wait a second. So did you really just go from corporate America to having a successful CFO business? Like easy breezy? Or did like money mindset stuff come up for you? I'm so curious.
Yeah. When I did it the second time, and I just had enough, like the place I was working for they were very like concerned about They knew that I had a coaching business. They knew that I had been doing CFO work on my own for about a year. And they told me, like, you can't do anything that will compete with us. And I said, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I think they were still concerned about that. So they kept watching me online and it became so restrictive and they wanted me to sign this thing that I didn't feel was right. And I was like, I freaking had it. And so at that point, I had made the decision to move back home to just regroup after my divorce and everything. And so I was like, I don't need this job. Like I had enough private clients to carry me without the huge amount of rent I was paying in Sonoma County, which is a very expensive place. And so I had been offered through a friend, or actually through an old client from corporate. He had reached out and said, hey, I know this friend of mine's an investor at this company. They're looking for a part-time CFO. Maybe check it out. And I was like so neutral about it because it wasn't an industry that I thought I would want to even be involved in, because I came from like service-based and this was very product-based and it just like a lot of work. So it was very different. And I was like, okay, I'll take the call. And so after the call, I was like, they were very nice. So I'm just going to quote them something that I think is outrageous, like outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was being offered this, like the highest paying corporate position I'd ever been offered, but you had to go into the office 5 days a week. And so I was really presented with this like fork in the road. Okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to choose? I had decided even before they accepted my proposal, I said, you know what? I just can't. I don't feel aligned with going back in.
Yeah.
People were telling me, you're so crazy for not taking that. And I'm like, I care more about my freedom than that. So as soon as I turned down that job, I got an email saying they accepted my proposal. And I was like, what? This was like crazy. I'm still working for them and I love them. They're great. And then a month later, another woman from Australia who I briefly met sent me this other company and she was like, yeah, you should just talk to them. They're looking for a full-time controller, but I think you could do it with your part-time CFO stuff. So that worked. And so I just filled my roster within 6 weeks where I couldn't right now probably take on another client because so it was like, there was so much building up to that. But yeah, I went from corporate job to launching my own company and making more than I did in my corporate job.
Is it like a multi-six-figure business? Like where are you at with that?
Yeah, it's right now, it's probably like 150, I would say. It could be more by the end of this year, but right now, like 150. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm like, this is a great first step into this space, especially only after a year. So yeah, it's been really exciting.
It is actually like my favorite clients to work with and coach are clients who are in a similar situation where they're like filled up as a badass consultant, but they want to move a little bit more into an agency model.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's usually how you scale from 6 or multi-6 to 7 figures. And I've been down that road. And I just think it's really fun, especially when the lead flow is already there, where it's, oh yeah, I could actually have more business right now.
Yeah.
I could take it. So I'm very excited for you because I think the sky's the limit. And it's really just how in your time and in the divine unfolding and all of that. But you also, I know, have this really more like spiritual and energetic side to you and your work. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that as well.
Yes. My other business is a coaching business where I work with women. I have one program that's specifically for single moms or just moms who've gone through toxic, abusive relationships and who just want to heal that. So it's not at all about blaming the guy or anything like that. It's really about taking the power back, healing from inside, and then becoming like really regulated, like your nervous system regulation, emotional regulation. And I even teach like how to do that for their kids because that's so important. Kids can feel that. And makes such a difference when you know how to handle that. That has been like I know that was one of my purpose in this life because I have 3 children with 3 different dads. And I used to be so embarrassed about that. And then I realized, no, this is because I literally had to learn every aspect of this before I could teach others and walk them through it. And the 3 dads are all so different. And I've had different challenges. One of them has become like a good friend where I never thought that was possible. So I have all of this experience and I can actually help them through. So I have pre-recorded audios, but then we have live calls. my mentor, Andrea Crowder, just came in and spoke to the women and was able to like work on them, which was really cool. And then I do a little bit of Telegram coaching for the women who are like going through it, who just need that extra support. That just lights me up. That's definitely a passion. And then I have my membership where I blend RRT with energetics. And so in there, it's really mostly women entrepreneurs who are just wanting to strip away the programming. There's a lot of guilt and shame they're dealing with from childhood. A lot of them are mothers too. So I'm helping them. Like one of the moms in there said, my daughter loves listening to you every night. And so now I'm going to record audios for kids so that they can listen. Yeah. So I feel like my business is very much centered around mothers because I can just relate so much. And like kids, I have such a soft spot for, I want to protect every child. Yeah.
Amen. I love that work that you're doing. And it's so funny. Right before this, I was on a live call for my Money Wound Medicine students. And we were talking about this same thing where this woman had just left this toxic marriage. And she was like, next year, I'm planning to really start my coaching business. And I know that I needed to go through this stuff. I'm like, absolutely. Would you ever hire a coach to help you navigate leaving a toxic marriage if that coach was like, oh, I've never been married before, but I know what to do. Like I can tell you what to do. Oh, absolutely not. And so it's, of course, you had to get the equivalent of the PhD in navigating these co-parenting relationships and not just one, right? Because then your clients would be like, you just don't understand because my ex isn't like that. And you're like, listen, I'm dealing with 3 different personalities here. And it's just like that was part of your life path, part of your soul mission so that you can help so many women with that. And what a tremendous gift. Because like you said, it's for the women, but it's also for the kids. How many kids end up going to therapy as adults because they feel like they were in the middle of things and they were used as a pawn or a negotiating tool between their 2 divorced parents. And
totally. Yeah. And I love that PhD. I'm going to have to use that in my, in a social media post, PhD and baby daddies. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I said the same thing to this client that I was talking to. I'm like, listen, like if I grew up in a family where like I had a trust fund and I just felt so safe and secure with money and like it was abundant and it was always going to be there, that would have been fine. I just know that I would not have created an entire money healing methodology out of that.
Yes, totally. And that's what I tell my teen who she has a lot of friends who are very wealthy and it's not fair. And I'm like, honey, but you are going to be able to help other people. You're going to have a better perspective because she wants to be a therapist. So I said, you're going to be able to relate to people. And so I think she's finally getting that, but it's so true. It's like our biggest wounds do end up becoming the medicine we share with other people.
Yes. So well said. Are there things that now that you're awake and aware of energetics and intuition and feminine energy that now when you look at money and in particular, when you look at money inside of a business, so you're looking at it like with your CFO clients and such, have you noticed any shifts in the way that you look at it, that you perceive it? Or do you notice anything in your clients that you didn't previously?
Yes. So I right now am going through, so my intuitive teacher is Alessandro Gianetti. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
He's with Guided Light Healing, which is an amazing intuition school. He's been doing it for a very long time. And so he has a program in there called Financial Mastery, and it's more about the energetics of source truth, how we look at money and how money is a good thing. And so he talks a lot about that. So after learning also about investing and how to use your intuition for investing, like all of that kind of stuff, that has changed a lot of the way I look at stuff. But with my clients, like yesterday, I got an email from a client who she is experiencing a lot of financial loss right now. And I just so badly want to be like, I can help you from my coaching business, but it's from the energetic intuitive piece. But I still feel hesitation because I know a lot of CEOs aren't open to that, which is unfortunate. I can also tell with another client who is very stressed out, always looking for possible issues in the business. And I can just see how it affects the ups and downs of the money coming in, of possible deals falling through. And it's like, someday I would love to have a CFO like business where I could actually share the energetics piece of it too, like what I'm seeing. But it is such an interesting thing to be able to see all of that. And then I feel bad, like I'm not saying it, but I don't know how they'll respond either.
Yeah, I've heard something similar from one other financial professional where she was like, I literally know what's going on through the numbers. And not because the numbers are telling the story, but because the energetics are woven into what's happening. And so she's like, I can literally feel and identify like where there's constriction or where there's limiting beliefs.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think that's so cool.
When I hear my clients say things like, oh, when it rains, it pours, nothing goes right. And I so badly want to be like, no, don't say that. Don't say that. But yeah, right now it's still just two separate worlds.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. A little bit of unsolicited advice. But one thing you could consider is just saying some of my most successful clients really pair money mindset work along with the tangible CFO and financial guidance. So if that was something you ever wanted to consider, I could make some recommendations.
Yeah, that's true.
And just leave it at that. And then if they're like, oh my gosh, I would love that, then the door is open for you to say, here are some people that I think you could benefit from. And I also have a separate business where I offer this kind of service.
Yeah, I love that. That's a very clean way to say that without pushing or making it sound too woo, like out there. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. In our agency, our favorite way of guiding our clients is our most successful clients find that.
Yep. I love that.
Because everybody wants to be one of your most successful clients.
Yep.
And so it gives it to them in a very like non-offensive way.
Yep. I love that.
I think you'll get some good mileage out of that one. And I found, especially I think up where you are in like Northern California, but just in general, I feel like the corporate world is like continuing to awaken more and more to the mindset piece. Like there's just more articles coming out about CEOs going on ayahuasca trips and things like that. And I know it's still not the norm, but even just the fact that would even be talked about on LinkedIn is so revolutionary. Like we're really having this moment around meditation and mindfulness and inner work and like how that plays into corporate spaces.
Oh yeah, totally. And Alessandro, my intuitive teacher, said he's worked with a lot of like celebrities. He lives in LA, but he said really, I think did he name the company? I want to say he said Microsoft, but maybe he said companies like Microsoft actually pay, and this is all behind the scenes, but they actually pay like intuitives to come in and help them with their forecasting or decisions. And I'm like, that is so interesting. You would never guess companies are doing that.
Right.
So
it reminds me, did you ever watch the TV show Silicon Valley?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So it's like the big company, like the tech giant is called Hooli, and it's supposed to be like Google. And the CEO there basically has this like bearded guy who's advising him, except in this story, the guy is like the grifter, you know? But I believe it because there have been leaked documents from the government where it's more than that, probably 60, 80 years ago, even in the FBI and as part of our military operations, they've used psychics.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
So they know.
Yeah.
That there's something else going on. And it's not uncommon in like when they're trying to solve cold cases that they'll use people who are mediums that can channel the dead person and find out clues about what happened and where the body is or who did it.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like even these organizations that come off as being like so masculine energy, so by the book and just facts. And stuff is there. It works.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they definitely know for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. What do you think? So my audience is a lot of women entrepreneurs who often are probably either like solopreneurs, consultants, coaches, maybe have a part-time employee or virtual assistant or that kind of thing, but are in essence making 5, 6, maybe like multi 6 figures. So they're not at the place where they're likely hiring like a fractional CFO. They're probably, they may have a bookkeeper in their business and they may have a CPA, but they don't have that strategic person who is like looking at the numbers and helping them like make decisions based on that. And I just would be curious to leverage your expertise here. Are there things that you see, maybe your top 3 tips that would apply to more of a true small business owner?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the issues that I see a lot of, even when I was in the Silicon Valley startup space, I saw this a lot, is people were keeping their books on spreadsheets instead of like in an actual software. I know that probably it's financially related, but there is a new program out. What's it called? Wave is what it's called, and it's free. So I tell a lot of my members in my membership, I've gone through how to use it.
Yeah.
And so making sure that you are keeping track of, if you don't have a bookkeeper, that you are using some kind of software. But I definitely recommend a bookkeeper if you're not familiar with accounting or finance, because I have had clients spend thousands on me just literally fixing their books because they had their brother do the books who didn't. So that's a huge money saver, time saver. It seems annoying, but try to do it weekly. That's what I do. I just make it fun. I put a show on, Gilmore Girls or Friends, and then I just sit and do my little money date with myself, entering all of my transactions. From there, once you have really good set of books, you can do what's called a cash flow forecast. And so I create this for all of my clients, and we basically do it for 12 months. And we just see, okay, what do you think you're going to bring in? What do you think you're going to spend? We just do an average. And then we can see, okay, you can afford to hire an assistant in this month, or you'll be profitable in this month. And it's a lot simpler than it even sounds.
Yeah.
I actually have a free template that I give people if anyone needs it. But like doing that is such a great way to just keep an eye on it, because yes, you can pull like income statements from QuickBooks or whatever you're using. But this helps you see like when you might run out of cash, or when you might need to like think about bringing in more revenue. Or so I always tell my clients, those are the 2 really necessary things. The third thing, just also creating, and this kind of goes with the cash flow forecast, but making sure you have a budget. So sometimes I'll see clients just spend without really thinking, and then it's 3 times over what they expected to spend in a certain bucket or whatever. And it all sounds very common sense and boring and dry, but it used to be one of those people who I was just like, I don't care. I'm just, even though I was doing like the books for other people in the corporate space, I was like just spending on whatever. And it wasn't until I sat, and now I like looking at my numbers. Oh, the third thing would be to pay yourself first. I always recommend that too. Like so I pay myself 8%. I put it into what I call a soul account, which I have a high yield savings account. I take 8% from everything I get, gross profit, throw it in there. And it's just a really great way to energetically tell the universe, I'm putting myself first, I'm paying myself first, and then you just don't touch it. And then what I'm doing, and this is based on what my intuitive teacher is telling me to do, is every 3 months, then you just bump it up a little bit. So like in a couple months, I'll bump it up to 9% or even 8.5% or whatever. And so that's a really great, easy, energetic way to shift things for you. When I started doing that and then telling myself, I come first, money's my highest value, my kids even started acting different. Like they were getting along and they were playing together. And I was like, what is happening? Because everything comes from within. You know this, but like everything comes from within to the outside. And yeah, so those are the main tips I would give for sure.
I love those. I think there's such incredible value in this, Angela. So thank you for sharing. And for everyone listening, like if you weren't taking notes on that, go back and listen to those tips, because how often do we embody the damsel in distress? Let's be honest. And when we're in that energy, we're hoping that there's like this new tip, this new trick, that there's some big revolutionary thing that's going to come in and save the day. And it's like, how is something going to replace needing to understand your cash flow? How is something going to replace needing to understand how much you're spending every month? Like, these are important things.
Yeah. And then as we learn in our RT, like the more that you ignore or avoid something, the more unconscious mind thinks it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So if you're avoiding your numbers, avoiding your bank account, your unconscious actually going to think your money is dangerous. And that like does the opposite of what we want.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's go out of your way to move toward the thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, put on a show, set aside time, go out of your way to spend time with your numbers, or go out of your way to hire a bookkeeper and find one that wants to have a monthly check-in meeting with you or a quarterly check-in meeting so that you're getting the information in a way that benefits you.
Yeah, definitely. And I have some clients where they just want like a monthly email. They just want to say, hey, can you give me the highlights?
Yeah.
And that's so easy to do.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
What are some signs that a business would be ready for fractional CFO work?
Yes. So typically I work with clients who are going to get investments or funding of some sort because they know they need to have really solid books and numbers and processes in place. But then I have some clients who are smaller businesses who just really want to grow and they know they need their numbers to do that. So I would say it varies. Like I have one client where I'm just on a retainer, a small retainer, and I have a bookkeeper who does his books and I send him his reports once a month. So that doesn't cost a lot for him, but it gives him a lot of value.
Yeah.
And then I have other clients where I'm working on their stuff every day and it's 5 figures, but with him, it's a pretty low number. So it just depends, I think, how comfortable you are with numbers. If you want someone there to help guide you, sometimes I'll just show my clients even how to do their own cash flow forecast if they want to take that over and have it just for their own information. But yeah, I think at any stage, really, it doesn't have to be. They used to think, oh, a CFO, that's for a really big company. No, it's just for more when you're wanting those solid numbers, regular reporting, and like someone to ask, should I do this? Should I do that? Am I in compliance with sales tax? Am I registered in all the right states? Like those kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anybody who's listened to this show for a while knows that we have a fractional CFO in our agency business, and we have for a few years. And I really feel like it's an investment in peace of mind, probably more than anything. But it keeps us from what otherwise might be avoiding or ignoring the numbers. And so it's because we have Allison, we meet monthly and we're looking at these certain reports, and then we're having a discussion around when to hire and how that changes the forecast, or if we think this client is going to leave or we're bringing on this new client. And so it is really helpful for a lot of reasons, but for me, at least anyway, first and foremost, it really gives me that root chakra, like safety and stability, like peace of mind kind of feeling. And it's so worth it.
Yeah, no, totally. For sure.
This has been amazing. And I know that people are going to want to connect with you. It sounds like you've got some really good free resources, but then also I know you have that incredible paid community and the programs around what is it called? It's called like Clean Baby Daddy Energy, isn't it? Your program?
Yeah.
I love that name.
Thank you.
That's like the best name for a program.
It was fun to create. And at first I was like, Clean BDE. I was like so nervous to say it. And now it's just like normal, but I think it was a lot bolder than I'm used to.
Yeah, I know. I love those moments in our business where we're like, okay, no one else might even care, but this is a big deal for me right now because I'm like stretching, I'm allowing myself to be seen, or I'm showing a different side of myself. But for what it's worth, I think the name of that program is phenomenal and it's memorable. Like I remember it because it's so unique and you just went there and you went for it. How can people connect with you and learn more about working with you, or just you have two very distinct, incredible businesses, and I know people are going to want to connect.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very active on Instagram, so you can find me there at Angela Marie Christian. And then my website is angelamariechristian.com. Those are the main two places. I'm also active on Facebook and Twitter and all of that, but those are the two places they would get the most information. And on my website, I do have free resources there too. So
amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And just as a final question, can you share what it feels like to you to be on the joyous path to millions?
Yes, I love this. It's like having a high level conversation with a friend who understands a blend of finance, energetics, and I love the message that you're sending out to all these women. And yeah, it's such an honor to be on the podcast with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you loved that chat with Angela as much as I did. Make sure you go give her a follow on Instagram at Angela Marie Christian. Let us know what your top takeaways were. Let us know that you listened to the show. Here were mine. Number one, the bad moments in your life have happy endings. Like they're all still working out for you. Number two, when you leap, universe conspires with you. I love that she had decided to not take that highest paying corporate job ever and then immediately lands this huge client and is off to the races. Number three, when you're on your soul mission, you've got to get your PhD in that thing. So whether it's having multiple baby daddies, whether it's going through money drama and healing money wounds, whether it's going through a challenging relationship with food and body image and getting to the other side of that, it's like you are getting a life's education and a PhD in that topic so that you can help others. So there's nothing shameful about it. It means that you are on mission, that you are doing what you're meant to be doing. Number four, I love Angela's tips around using accounting software, forecasting your cash flow, and paying yourself first. So write those down, go back and listen to that part. It's so valuable. And number five, be memorable and be bold in your branding. Like I can't tell you how many guests I've had on this show where I probably couldn't even tell you the name of one of their programs, but I remembered hers, even though it's not a program that would be helpful for me. But there was something about the boldness that I could feel. And in her being willing to put herself out there in that way, it made her more memorable. So that's our invitation for all of us to be more bold and be more memorable in our marketing. So thank you as always for tuning in. I've got a really great interview coming up with Andrea Crowder. Both Angela and I consider Andrea to be a mentor, and she's just an incredible human. So make sure you tune into that one. This podcast is a top 2% global show. My goal is that it becomes a top 1% global show, and I can only do that with your help. So keep tuning in, of course, keep listening, and then share it with a friend, recommend it. If someone's online asking for a new podcast, let them know that this is one to tune into, or even when you screenshot that you're listening and then you share in an Instagram story. I've discovered so many new podcasts that way. So that really helps us get the word out about the show. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, being part of this community, and being on the joyous path to millions. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Changing the way that we think, feel, and talk about money is up-leveling the planet. I truly believe that. The ripple effect starts with you tuning in, and it spreads when you share this show on Instagram and Facebook. You can tag me at mmakesmoney. And you know what moves the needle the most? Taking just a minute to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This show isn't free to produce, so let's multiply those dollars invested and help this show reach a bigger audience each week. So thank you in advance for your help. I really appreciate it. And until next time, I'm sending you all the magic money vibes on your joyous path to millions.